Krishna. It's March 24th, 2024, and today is called Sri Gaura Purnima. It's the appearance day of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we'll read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Beta Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll recite some further invocation verses from actually, like the invocation. You can say the seed verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita. They're the first 14 verses of the first chapter of the Adi-lila, just like the seed verses of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, texts 8 to 11. The seed verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, texts 33 to 36. So you can say the seed verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita, those first 14 verses of the first chapter, and then the next 3 verses, 15 to 17, and they invoke the blessings and grace and mercy of the 3 most prominent deities of Vrindavan. And the 18th verse is what we just did. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. And then really the first 12 chapters of the Adi-lila, they expand, they philosophically expand on those seed verses, the first 14 verses. And then the remaining 50 chapters, then that expands on the pastimes and philosophy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And today, somewhat randomly, I thought we'll read from Adi-lila, chapter 14, entitled Lord Chaitanya's Childhood Pastimes. So we'll recite some verses. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodidal Gododai Pushpavantal Chitral Sandal Tamododal. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are just like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gaura to dissipate the darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali and to wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Srupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jayatam Suratal Pangor Mambamanda Mater Gatir Matsarvasva Padambojal Radhamatana Mohana. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyad Vrindaranya Kappa Jumada. Srimad Ratnagar Singasana Stel Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devas Pristali Bisevimane Smarami. In a temple of jewels, in a forest of Vrindavan, beneath a desire tree, Sri Sri Radha and Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer them my respectful obeisances. Sri Madrasa Rasarambi Vamsivanta Tatastita Karshan Venu Staner Gopir Gopinata Shri Stuna. Sri Srila Gopinath, who is the inaugurator of the transcendental mellow of the rasa dance, stands upon the shore at Vamsivat and attracts all the cowherd damsels of Raja with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamrupa Kedamayam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanti Tamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpata Yobhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. So, every day is a fine and perfect and wonderful day to remember Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then today his birthday in common language, but his appearance day is a special day to absorb ourselves in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the teachings and pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And so sometimes Prabhupada would talk about like the birthday of Krishna and use that term. More technically, we call it the appearance day because it's not like a forced birth, forced by our desires and our karma to get into this cage of a material body. But it's a pastime, just like in ordinary language. Okay, well, I go to work, have to go to work, pay the bills, have to go to work. But on the weekends, I play golf. Golf's my pastime. Or I like to hike in the woods, or just read a novel. My pastimes. Okay, so it means like us. I don't have to do it. It's what I enjoy doing. Okay. So for Krishna, the pure devotee, everything is pastime. There's no have to. Everything is get to. Everything's full get to. And Krishna describes Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evamyo Veti Tatvata Chakvideham Punarjama Neti Mameti Sorjuna, that Krishna describes in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. One who understands the transcendental nature of the Krishna's of the pastimes and activities of Krishna's pure devotees, for one who understands, then that is synonymous with being back to Godhead. Then that's the perfection of life. Then we go back to God with Krishna. Then Netimameti, so then one comes back to me. And of course, in bhakti, the journey is the goal. And so we engage in bhakti yoga, hearing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and then we make progress back to Godhead towards the goal, love of Krishna. At the same time, just by engaging in this way, this is the goal. We've achieved it. We've done it. This is the goal. In bhakti, unlike other processes, the journey is the goal. And so Krishna is one who understands. So it's not just a cognitive thing, but to get, because we just like, okay, there's Nama Rupa Lila, Namupa Guna Lila. So generally, this realization starts with the name. That's why. So Lord Chaitanya, he focused on chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And because Namo Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Binat Va Namanamino, that Krishna is non-different from his name, whatever we understand or not. We chant Hare Krishna, chant the names of God. Nam Namakri Bauda Nija Sarva Shakti. So that's one of the verses written by Lord Chaitanya. He left 8 written verses and volumes of spoken instruction, volumes and volumes, so that God has innumerable names, and they're all invested with transcendental potency. And then of course so all the names of God are one and equal and transcendental, and there are distinctions. There's oneness and distinction in everything. That's the essence of Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. So there's so much philosophy. Today I thought we'll focus on some pastime, and there's so much pastime, just to get some taste of the sweetness of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes in his childhood. We have our Chaitanya Charitamrita study group going on for about 7-8 years now, and we're on the Adi-lila, the later pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And so, and then many of you are aware that our program is, then we have our morning program going for another hour or so, and then later today from 5 p.m. Eastern till about 9, we'll have an evening program. Lord Chaitanya, actually, in chapter 13 of the Adi-lila is where the pastimes begin to be described. Before that, it's rather dense, intense philosophy, mostly, not completely. And so Lord Chaitanya appeared at moonrise. So it's a full moon. He appeared at moonrise. So for those on Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, for those who choose to observe, it's recommended to fast till moonrise, recommended fast till moonrise. Of course, it's not recommended if one's going to not be healthy like that, but to fast till moonrise and then to break the fast then. And so, yes, so this morning before japa, we read an excerpt of one of Srila Prabhupada's lectures on Gaura Purnima. It was in Hawaii, 1969, and Prabhupada, very interestingly, Prabhupada chose to speak on a verse from the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, a verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. So why would Prabhupada speak on a verse from Prahlad Maharaj on Lord Chaitanya's appearance day? Because it's a verse from Prahlad Maharaj from really millions of years ago, where Prahlad Maharaj predicts the appearance of Lord Chaitanya 530 years ago. And there are several verses from the Vedas, including Bhagavatam. That's why it's not just like, oh, his incarnation, avatar, these terms can become popular. But no, the Prabhupada emphasizes, no, what's the Shastric reference? What's the evidence? And so, for example, a verse from Bhagavatam from the 11th canto spoken by Karabhajana Muni to Maharaj Nimi. Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yage Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sume Dasaha. If anyone's into learning verses, that's a great one to learn. Prabhupada quotes it a lot. And it's from the Bhagavatam, again, from not just thousands of years ago, long time ago. And the Bhagavatam's predicting that in this Kali Yuga, Krishna will appear in a non-blackish form, in a golden yellowish form. And what will he do? Engage in Kirtana prayer. He'll engage in Sankirtan. He'll be on the streets chanting and dancing and spreading love of God for all. That's a theme of Lord Chaitanya's teachings and pastimes. This is completely non-sectarian. Even Srila Prabhupada would emphasize often like if Prabhupada would go to like Iran or somewhere, and where like the Muslims, and Prabhupada said like, oh, you would go, be talking in a monastery in Australia. He said, you have a name of God? Chant that name of God. Prabhupada wasn't interested in converting. He's like, you have a name of God? That's the Yuga Dharma. Chant your bone, you chant Allah, chant the name of Jesus. Okay. And in most instances, okay, you don't have a particular name of God to chant? Here's an idea for you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. And we discussed a bit before japa this morning. Yeah, and the Prabhupada quoted in that lecture in Hawaii on Gaura Purnima, Lord Chaitanya's perhaps his most well-known verse amongst his Shikshastaka. Chaitanya Charitamrita has, yes, so has 62 chapters, and the last chapter, the 20th chapter of the Adi-lila is the Shikshastaka, and so 8 verses, and then Lord Chaitanya writes, Trinada Pisu Nichina Tori Basahishnu Namani Namanadena Kirtanya Sadhari. That to do, he encourages us to be absorbed in the spirit and activity and service of Kirtan 24 hours a day, Sadhari. And so to prepare our hearts for that, like that's the last line of the mantra, Kirtanya Sadhari, and to prepare our hearts to be able to enthusiastically engage in Kirtan, then cultivate a mentality, considering myself lower than the grass, more tolerant than a tree, demanding no respect for myself, ready to offer all respect to others. And then ahetukya priyatita, then kirtan is uninterrupted. Then we're just, because to the extent that I'm maintaining those weeds in my heart, that's an analogy. The garden, pulling the weeds. We use that a lot in Safato, pulling the weeds, watering the garden, just to trick, what's the roots of this? So that's Lord Chaitanya, chapter 19 of the Adi-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's called the Rupa Siksha chapter. Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Rupa Goswami. And Lord Chaitanya gives this beautiful analogy of the bhakti lata beach, the flower in the heart. And we need to water the flower with the chanting and pull the weeds with courageous introspection. And then to the extent that we're effective in our process, the flower grows and grows and grows and takes shelter in Goloka Vrindavan at the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is Lord Chaitanya's metaphor, his imagery. Towards the end of Adi-lila, chapters 20 to 24, it's 5 full chapters, Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Sanatana Goswami. Okay, so this is chapter 14, entitled Lord Chaitanya's Childhood Pastimes. Let's just immerse ourselves, see where we go with it. And this is over the years where we've read various parts of Chaitanya Charitamrita. I don't recall reading this chapter, so I thought let's dive in here. And every pastime, every philosophical instruction, it's one in its transcendence and simultaneously diverse. And spiritual life, nothing dull and monotonous, full of variety. So Srila Prabhupada writes in his summary, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a summary of this chapter in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasya. Quote, in this 14th chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a description of how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed his childhood pastimes, crawling, crying, and eating dirt, giving intelligence to his mother, favoring a Brahmin guest, riding on the shoulders of 2 thieves and misleading them to his own house, and on the plea of being diseased, taking prasad in the house of Hiranya and Jagadish on the Ekadashi day. The chapter further describes how he displayed himself as a naughty boy, how when his mother fainted, he brought a coconut to her on his head, how he joked with girls of the same age on the banks of the Ganges, how he accepted worshipful paraphernalia from Srimati Lakshmi Devi, how he sat down in a garbage pit wherefrom he instructed transcendental knowledge how he left the pit on the order of his mother, and how he dealt with his father with full affection. So that's a summary of the pastimes in this chapter. I don't know how much we'll get to, and we'll see. And so when Krishna says, "Want to understand the transcendental nature of my pastimes," that's personal liberation. And so, because he's, oh, well, it sounds like just like some pastimes of some mischievous boy. Just like we can chant Hare Krishna. Yeah, we can chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, some song on the radio. And so then like, yes, and then Krishna consciousness getting, no, it might seem, yeah, just like I could chant this mantra, I could just chant, I could chant the mantra of the football team and whatever. It might seem the same, it's a sound vibration of a completely different quality. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, like, yeah, the pastimes in the material world and the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya or Sri Krishna, they can seem the same, but it's like it makes a difference of it. But these are completely imbued with pure, clean, transcendental love. And whereas the activities and the relationships in material consciousness, it's lust. And Krishna's Kaviraj makes it's like as different as iron from gold. Again, it might seem the same from someone who's not able to make the distinction. And so whatever distinction we make or not, we absorb ourselves in this sound vibration, and we purify our hearts, and we get to feel some emerging transcendental joy. So text 1. Things that are very difficult to do become easy to execute if one somehow or other remembers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if one does not remember him, even easy things become very difficult. To this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my respectful obeisances. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami includes that in most chapters. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhura Kahila Janmalila Sutra Yashoda Nandana Che Hoila Sachi Putra. I have thus described in codes the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared as the son of Mother Sachi, exactly as Krishna appeared as the son of Mother Yashoda. Sangshepe Kahila Janma Lila Anukram Ebe Kahi Balya Lila Sutrera Ganana. I have already briefly spoken about the pastimes of his birth in chronological order. Now I shall enumerate the codes of his childhood pastimes. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the childhood pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord Krishna himself. Although such pastimes appear exactly like those of an ordinary child, they should be understood as various pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Balya Lilaya Age Prabhura Utana Shayana Pita Mataya Deka Ila China Charana. In his first childhood pastimes, the Lord turned upside down while lying on his bed, and thus he showed his parents the marks of his lotus feet. Grihe Dui Janadeki Lagupada China Tahe Shobe Dvaja Vajra Shanka Chakramina. When the Lord tried to walk, in his small footprints, the specific marks of Lord Vishnu were visible, namely the flag, thunderbolt, conch shell, disc, and fish. Seeing all these marks, neither his father nor his mother could understand whose footprints they were. Thus struck with wonder, they could not understand how those marks could be possible in their home. Jagannath Mishra said, certainly child Krishna is with the Shalagram Shila. Taking his childhood form, he is playing within the room. While Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra were talking, the child Nimai woke up and began to cry, and Mother Sachi took him on her lap and allowed him to suck her breast. Nimai is a name of Lord Chaitanya, particularly in his childhood pastimes. He was born under a neem tree. Neem has very antiseptic, purifying qualities. I know many times before I went to India, for like a few weeks before I went to India, I was taking neem pills to keep the mosquitoes away. And it worked. Yes, I was very unattractive to the mosquitoes. It's true. Yeah. I remember once I was walking with I was in Mayapur, and I was walking with the Maharaj at evening in Mayapur evening when all the mosquitoes come out, and all the mosquitoes went to the Maharaj and not to me. Sorry, I apologized, but no, because I prepared myself. So Nima is a name for Lord Chaitanya. Stana pia ite putrera charana de kila seichina paye de ki mishre bola ila. While Mother Sachi was feeding the child from her breast, she saw on his lotus feet all the marks that were visible on the floor of the room, and she called for Jagannath Mishra. When Jagannath Mishra saw the wonderful marks on the soul of his son, he became very much joyful and privately called for Nilambar Chakravarti. When Nilambar Chakravarti saw those marks, he smilingly said, "Formerly I ascertained all this by astrological calculation and noted it in writing. There are 32 bodily marks that symptomize a great personality, and I see all those marks on the body of this child. Mm, mm, This baby has all the symptoms of Lord Narayan on his palms and soles. He will be able to deliver all the three worlds. This child will preach the Vaishnav cult and deliver both his maternal and paternal families. I propose to perform a name-giving ceremony. We should observe a festival and call for the Brahmins because today is very auspicious. In the future, this child will protect and maintain all the world. For this reason, he is to be called Vishvambar, Suni Sachi Mishra Mane Ananda Badila, Brahmana Brahmani Ani Mahotsava Koila. After hearing Nilambar Chakravarti's prediction, Sachimat and Jagannath Mishra observed the name-giving festival in great joy, inviting all the Brahmins and their wives. After some days, the Lord began to crawl on his knees, and he caused various wonderful things to be seen. Krandanera chale bada ila harinam, nari saba haribale hase goradam. The Lord caused all the ladies to chant the holy name of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on the plea of his crying. And while they chanted, the Lord would smile. Okay, so see from there, because just a little bit. There's actually five reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance, for Krishna appearing as Lord Chaitanya. So there's two what's called external reasons, and one of them is to spread the chanting of Hare Krishna, the chanting the names of God. Another reason is to please his devotees, like Srila Bhattacharya, who prayed for his appearance. And then there's three more confidential reasons, and they're described in the early chapters of Adi-lila. Three confidential reasons: to experience the love of Srimati Radharani, to experience the bliss of Srimati Radharani, and to empathically enter into Srimati Radharani's perspective, to see what is it she's so attracted to in Krishna, to realize what is it about Krishna that she's so attracted to. So that's a very confidential reason. So we can see, so to inspire the chanting of Hare Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya would cry, and he just, whatever you would normally do to get like a little child to stop crying, it wouldn't work. So he would only stop crying when all the ladies would start chanting Hare Krishna. Then he would stop crying. Okay, so let's read Prabhupada. Prabhupada has a purport here. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, this pastime is described as follows. The Lord, with his beautiful eyes, would cry, but he would stop immediately upon hearing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When the ladies, understanding the fun of the Lord, discovered that he would cry and then stop upon hearing the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, they all took it as a clue to chant Hare Krishna as soon as the Lord cried. Thus it became a regular function. The Lord would cry, and the ladies would begin chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra clapping with their hands. In this way, all the ladies of the neighboring houses would assemble in the home of Sachi Mata to join in the Sankirtan movement 24 hours a day. As long as the ladies continued to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the Lord would not cry, but very pleasingly smile upon them. So inspiring the chanting from the earliest age. And just some context there. So Srila Prabhupada, he quotes from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which was originally called the Chaitanya Mangala, profusely. The Chaitanya Bhagavat is an authorized biography of Lord Chaitanya from Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, who's actually an incarnation of Srila Vyasadeva. So, and if Srila Prabhupada continued in his manifest pastimes longer, I imagine he would have given Chaitanya Bhagavat. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave Chaitanya Bhagavat in Bengali. And yes, and I have that on my shelves. I got it as a birthday present a few years ago from Devin and Kanchabal. I'm planning to read it, looking forward to it. There's a translation. And so, but Srila Prabhupada gave us Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is also a completely authorized biography of Lord Chaitanya. And so some reasons he gave it is one thing, Chaitanya Charitamrita has more of the philosophy. It also has so many pastimes, rich in pastimes. Now, Chaitanya Bhagavat, that focuses on the early pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So it's like most of the early pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, really just a summary is given. And Krishna Kaviraj will say, you know, for more details, I don't want to repeat what Vrindavan Das Thakur has already given in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Chaitanya Bhagavat doesn't focus so much on the later pastimes. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita has more extensive descriptions of the later pastimes. And that's why for many of the early pastimes, like the chapter we're reading, Krishna's Kaviraj sometimes will give a sentence or one or two verses, and then Srila Prabhupada will fill in with some purport referencing Chaitanya Bhagavat. All right, so we see how Lord Chaitanya masterfully in his toddler or pre-toddler years was inspiring the ladies to chant Hare Krishna. Kabe kata dine koila pada chan kramana shishu gane mili koila vivida kelana. After some days, the Lord began to move his legs and walk. He mixed with other children and exhibited varieties of sports. Ekadina Sachika e Sandesha Ania Bhattabari Dia Boila Kaota Basya. One day, while the Lord was enjoying his playful sports with the other little children, Mother Sachi brought a dish filled with fused rice and sweetmeats and asked the child to sit down and eat them. But when she returned to her household duties, the child, hiding from his mother, began to eat dirt. Seeing this, Mother Sachi hastily returned, exclaiming, "What is this? What is this?" She snatched the dirt from the hands of the Lord and inquired why he was eating it. Some parallels to Krishna's pastime. Mother Yashoda was told by Balaram and the friends, Krishna's eating dirt. You're familiar with that? Open your mouth, and Krishna said, no, they're just lying. They just want to make me look bad. Okay, so here's another dirt-eating pastime. Okay. So she snatched the dirt from the hands of the Lord and inquired why he was eating it. Kandia balena shishu, kene kararosha, tumi mati kaite dile, mora kibadosha. Crying, the child inquired from his mother, "Why are you angry? You have already given me dirt to eat. What is my fault?" Yes. Fused rice, sweetmeats, or anything eatable is all but a transformation of dirt. This is dirt, that is dirt. Please consider, what is the difference between them? Okay, so he's going philosophical. It's going philosophical. Mati deha mati bhaksha dekaha vichari. Avichari deha dosha ki balite pari. This body is a transformation of dirt, and the eatables are also a transformation of dirt. Please reflect upon this. Mother, you are blaming me without consideration. What can I say? Let's hear Srila Prabhupada's purport on that one. This is an explanation of the Mayavad philosophy, which takes everything to be one. Again, like there's in Krishna's pastimes, there's times where Krishna preaches bogus philosophy. Yes, he does. Like in the Govardhan pastime, Krishna's preaching to his father karma kanda philosophy. So here, Lord Chaitanya is trying to convince his mother of Mayavad philosophy. Okay, his mother's not going to go for it. Well, that comes a little later. So the necessities of the body, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are all unnecessary in spiritual life. I'll read that sentence again. Very important sentence. Yes. Good. The necessities of the body, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are all unnecessary in spiritual life. When one is elevated to the spiritual platform, there are no more bodily necessities. And in activities pertaining to the bodily necessities, there are no spiritual considerations. In other words, the more we eat, sleep, have sex, and try to defend ourselves, the more we engage in material activities. Prabhupada just tells it like it is. I'll read it again. Yes. Such a fun principle. In other words, the more we eat, sleep, have sex, and try to defend ourselves, the more we engage in material activities. Unfortunately, Mayavadi philosophers consider devotional activities to be bodily activities. They cannot understand the simple explanation in Bhagavad Gita, Mam Jyogya Vicharena Bhakti Yogina Sevate Sagunan Samatityaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kapute. Quote, anyone who engages in spiritual devotional service without motivation, rendering such service for the satisfaction of the Lord, is elevated immediately to the spiritual platform, and all his activities are spiritual. That's from Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Brahma Bhuyaya refers to Brahman, spiritual activities. Although Mayavadi philosophers are very much eager to merge in the Brahman effulgence, they have no Brahman activities. To a certain extent, they recommend Brahman activities, which for them mean engagement in studying the Vedanta and Sankhya philosophies, but their interpretations are but dry speculation. Lacking the varieties of spiritual activity, they cannot stay for long on that platform of simply studying Vedanta or Sankhya philosophy. Life is meant for varieties of enjoyment. The living entity is by nature full of an enjoying spirit, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12, Anandamayo Vyasa. In devotional service, the activities are variegated and full of enjoyment. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.2, all devotional activities are easy to perform, susukam kartum, and they are eternal and spiritual, avyayam. Since Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this, they take it for granted that a devotee's activities, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, etc., are all material and are therefore Maya. They also consider Krishna's advent in this universe and his activities to be Maya. Therefore, because they consider everything Maya, they are known as Mayavadis. Actually, any activities performed favorably for the satisfaction of the Lord under the direction of the spiritual master are spiritual. But for a person to disregard the order of the spiritual master and act by concoction, accepting his nonsensical activities to be spiritual, is Maya. One must achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the spiritual master. Therefore, one must first please the spiritual master, and if he is pleased, then we should understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also pleased. So we act in a way to please Prabhupada, we're pleasing Lord Chaitanya, we're pleasing Krishna. Because well, how can we know what Krishna? We can know, because Prabhupada's very clear. Yes. But if the spiritual master is displeased by our actions, they are not spiritual. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms this. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasada nagati kutopi. Activities that please the spiritual master must be considered spiritual, and they should be accepted as satisfying to the Lord. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the supreme spiritual master, instructed his mother about the Mayavad philosophy. By saying that the body is dirt and eatables are also dirt, he implied that everything is Maya. This is Mayavad philosophy. The philosophy of the Mayavadis is defective because it maintains that everything is Maya, but the nonsense they speak. That's brilliant stuff. Everything is Maya, everything's an illusion. The one thing that's not illusion is the words coming from my mouth. Well, if everything's illusion, then the words you're coming from your mouth is also illusion, so I'll ignore them. Thank you very much. Okay. While saying that everything is Maya, the Mayavadi philosopher loses the opportunity of devotional service, and therefore his life is doomed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised Mayavadi Bhashya Shunile Haya Sarvanash from the Adi-lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 6, text 169. If one accepts the Mayavad philosophy, his advancement is doomed forever. So Mayavad philosophy, in one sense, it's higher than gross materialism, but in one sense, gross materialism is not as dangerous as a Mayavad contamination. That gets into a whole, we can understand why, but it's more dangerous. Okay, let's continue this pastime, Mother Sachi and little Nimai, and see where we go with it. Antare vismita Sachi balila ta hare mati koite gyana yoga keshi kalatore. Astonished that the child was speaking Mayavad philosophy, Mother Sachi replied, "Who has taught you this philosophical speculation that justifies eating dirt?" Purport: in the philosophical discourse between the mother and the son, when the son said that everything is one, as impersonalists say, the mother replied, "If everything is one, why do people in general not eat dirt but eat the food grains produced from the dirt?" Matira vikara anna koile deha pushti haya. Mati koile roga haya deha yakshaya. Replying to the Mayavad idea of the child philosopher, Mother Sachi said, "My dear boy, if we eat earth transformed into grains, our body is nourished and it becomes strong. But if we eat dirt in its crude state, the body becomes diseased instead of nourished, and thus it is destroyed. In a water pot, which is a transformation of dirt, I can bring water very easily. But if I poured water on a lump of dirt, the lump would soak up the water, and my labor would be useless. Atma luka ite prabhu balila tanhare age kena ihamata na shikale more. The Lord replied to his mother, "Why did you conceal this self-realization by not teaching me this practical philosophy in the beginning?" She can't win. Just trying to get him to stop eating dirt, some bogus philosophy. Then she gives him the correct Vaishnav philosophy. Oh, why didn't you teach me earlier? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. If one is, so let's see where Srila Prabhupada goes with this past. If one is taught from the very beginning of life, the Vaishnava philosophy of duality or variety, the monistic philosophy will not very much bother him. In reality, everything is an emanation from the supreme source, Janmadyasya Yataha. The original energy is exhibited in varieties exactly like the sunshine, the original energy emanating from the sun, which acts as light and heat in variety. One cannot say that light is heat and heat is light, yet one cannot separate one from the other. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is achintya beta beta tattva, inconceivable non-separation and distinction. Although there is an affinity between the two physical manifestations, light and heat, there is a difference between them. Similarly, although the whole cosmic manifestation is the Lord's energy, the energy is nevertheless exhibited in varieties of manifestations. Ebese janila nara matina kahiba kshuda lage abe tabe tomaras piba. Now that I can understand this philosophy, no more shall I eat dirt. Whenever I am hungry, I shall suck your breast and drink your breast milk. After saying this, the Lord, smiling slightly, climbed on the lap of his mother and sucked her breast. Thus, under various excuses, the Lord exhibited his opulences as much as possible in his childhood, and later, after exhibiting such opulences, he hid himself. On one occasion, the Lord ate the foodstuffs of a Brahmin guest 3 times, and later, in confidence, the Lord delivered that Brahmin from material engagement. And I'll read the purport to that, Srila Prabhupada's purport. The story of the deliverance of this Brahmin is as follows. One Brahmin who was touring all over the country, traveling from one place of pilgrimage to another, reached Navadvip and became a guest in the house of Jagannath Mishra. Jagannath Mishra, that's the father of Lord Chaitanya. Jagannath Mishra gave him all ingredients for cooking, and the Brahmin prepared his foodstuffs. When the Brahmin was offering the foodstuffs to Lord Vishnu in meditation, the child Nimai came before him and began to eat them, and because of this, the Brahmin thought the whole offering spoiled. Therefore, by the request of Jagannath Mishra, he cooked for a second time, but when he was meditating, the child again came before him and began to eat the foodstuffs, again spoiling the offering. Now, one thing, I note, so the Brahmin is meditating. So, in other words, his offering is not just like, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna, okay, so it's a meditative offering. So he's in meditation, and then child Nimai comes along into the altar. So, okay, let's see what happens. Okay, by the request of Jagannath Mishra, the Brahmin cooked for a third time. But for a third time, the Lord came before him and began to eat the foodstuffs, although the child had been locked within a room and everyone was sleeping because it was late at night. That's what was described earlier. That, okay, so Krishna or Lord Chaitanya, they'll just be like apparently like an ordinary child, but sometimes they'll show their mystic opulence. Like he was locked in a room the third time, so he's showing some transcendental opulence there, powers. Okay, so although the child had been locked within a room and everyone was sleeping because it was late at night, thus thinking that on that day Lord Vishnu was not willing to accept his foodstuffs and that he was therefore ordained to fast, the Brahmin became greatly agitated and cried aloud, "Hoi, hoi, what has been done? What has been done?" When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the Brahmin in that agitated state, he told him, "Formerly I was the son of Mother Yashoda. At that time you also became a guest in the house of Nanda Maharaj, and I disturbed you in this way. I am very much pleased by your devotion. Therefore, I am eating the foodstuffs you have prepared." Understanding the favor offered to him by the Lord, the Brahmin was greatly pleased, and he was overwhelmed with love of Krishna. He was thankful to the Lord, for he felt himself greatly fortunate. Then the Lord asked the Brahmin not to disclose the incident to anyone else. This is very elaborately explained in the Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi-lila, chapter 3. Chorilana Gela Prabhu Ke Bahire Paiya Taraskante Chadi Oila Tare Bulaiya. In his childhood, the Lord was taken away by 2 thieves outside his home. The Lord, however, got up on the shoulders of the thieves, and while they were thinking they were safely carrying the child to rob his ornaments, the Lord misled them, and thus instead of going to their own home, the thieves came back to the home of Jagannath Mishra. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In his childhood, the Lord was profusely decorated with gold ornaments. Once upon a time, he was playing outside his house, and 2 thieves passing on the street saw the opportunity to rob the Lord, and therefore took him on their shoulders, pleasing him by offering him some sweetmeats. The thieves thought they would carry the child to the forest and then kill him and take away the ornaments. The Lord, however, expanded his illusory energy upon the thieves, so much so that instead of carrying him to the forest, they came right back in front of the house of the Lord. When they came before his house, they became afraid because everyone from the house of Jagannath Mishra and all the inhabitants of that quarter were busy searching for the child. Therefore the thieves, thinking it dangerous to remain, went away and left him. The child was brought within the house of Mother Sachi, who was in great anxiety, and she became satisfied. This incident is also very elaborately explained in the Adi-lila of Chaitanya Bhagavat, 3rd chapter. Hare Krishna. So they planned to kill him and steal, and so they went wherever they went. They ended up right back in front of Jagannath Mishra's house. So they got bewildered, mystic potency of Lord Chaitanya. Okay, I would say we're, about halfway through this chapter, and these childhood pastimes continue very wonderfully. And I'm ready to continue. At the same time, I thought to pause there. If anyone would like to share any comments, inspirations, insights, realizations, or ask any questions at this time. Nitya Gopal.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavas Pranam. I was just wondering the pastime which it is described about the Brahmanas, because there are many similarities between Krishna's pastimes and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and many of the devotees also remain same. I'm just wondering if these Brahmanas were the same Brahmanas which denied offering to Krishna Balaram, or maybe some Brahmana's wife. I'm not sure. I'm just wondering if it's true.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes. Well, okay, so thank you, Nitya Gopal. So that relates to text 37. On one occasion, the Lord ate the foodstuffs of a Brahmin guest 3 times, and later, in confidence, the Lord delivered that Brahmin from material engagement. Then the purport, Prabhupada's quoting, Lord Chaitanya is speaking to that one Brahmin. Formerly, I was the son of Mother Yashoda. At that time, you also became a guest in the house of Nanda Maharaj, and I disturbed you in this way. I am very much pleased by your devotion. Therefore, I'm eating the foodstuffs you have prepared. So apparently, there was a very similar pastime in Krishna's Lila. So as far as that, as far as that, was it the chapter 23 in Krishna book, 10th canto, about how the wives of the Brahmins and the Brahmins told Krishna and Balaram to, no, we don't have time. No, he told the friends of Krishna and Balaram, we don't have time to give food to Krishna and Balaram. We're too busy doing spiritual things. And then so they could miss the point. And then the wives go, Krishna and Balaram are hungry. Like, we're just dropping everything. We're going there to feed Krishna and Balaram. So whether this Brahmin described here in the verse and purport, that's one of those Brahmins who were attached to the ritual sacrifices, or whether that refers to a different pastime in Krishna book, because that it could be a pastime that's not directly described in Krishna book. The 90 chapters of the 10th canto, that's just a very, very, very partial biography of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we do know, like Srila Prabhupada often quotes the Gaura Ganodeshtipika, which specifically describes how different devotees, different personalities from Krishna Lila, who they appear as in Chaitanya Lila. So exactly who this Brahmin is, who got frustrated because little Nimai stole the offering 3 times, who that is in Krishna. It's clearly some Brahmin in Krishna Lila, whether it's the Brahmin in that chapter of the friends of Krishna Balaram asking for food, I'm not certain. Thanks for your question. Bhaktin Danielle.
Hare Krishna. So we have little Saraswati Devi Dasi here, and anytime we correct her, pretty much anytime we correct her, she very elegantly and assertively states, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Like, puts it right back on us as leaders, that any mistake that she makes is on us. And so I'm loving hearing little Nimai doing the same with his mother. And at the same time, simultaneously, he's expounding Mayavad philosophy. He's showing such elevated position. So seeing him in this dual role of the Supreme Personality of Godhead incarnated as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the sweet little boy who has just this, I mean, I've never really been around children, but now having one, like, I can see his true childhood pastime of just saying, like, well, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Now it's like such an innocent and just from my experience is very relatable to having a child and what being with a child is like. And so seeing that together is very sweet for me. It's very illustrative of he is really a child. He really came into a human body, and he was a child. He was a person. And also he was a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And both things are true at the same time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhaktin Danielle. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Janmadyasya Yataha. That's towards the beginning of Vedanta Sutra. Bhagavatam starts, well, the first line of Bhagavatam is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, then Janmadyasya Yataha Yatonbi. So, which means that everything that exists in the effect must exist in the source. So you're seeing a particular tendency of how Saraswati Devi Dasi responds and replies, why didn't you tell me sooner? So that whole childlike capacity and propensity that starts with the absolute truth, Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, Lord Chaitanya. We see it right there. Thanks for sharing that. Any other comments or questions at this time?
I don't know if it is the same pastime, bro, but I heard a similar pastime where Brahmana was very complex. Like he's offering every time he's making.
Yeah.
He's washing dishes again and again cooking. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says him like, "You're calling me every time when you're offering,
Yeah.
and when I'm eating your bhoga, you're getting depressed."
That's in Chaitanya Lila.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very similar. We just make that later in the Chaitanya Lila. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you, Hari Gopal. Okay, well then, I'll continue to read for a few more minutes. I'll read for a few more verses. Okay, so I'm going to text 48. Text 48, same chapter, chapter 14. Okay. Kabu Shishu Sange Snana Karila Gangate Kanyagana Oilatahan Devata Pujite. Sometimes the Lord, with other children, would go to take bath in the Ganges, and the neighboring girls would also come there to worship various demigods. When the girls, after bathing in the Ganges, engage in worshiping the different demigods, the Lord would come there and sit down among them. Kanyare kahe ama puja ami dibavara Ganga Durga Dasi Mora Mahesha Kinkara. Addressing the girls, the Lord would say, worship me and I shall give you good husbands or good benedictions. The Ganges and Goddess Durga are my maidservants, not to speak of other demigods. Even Lord Shiva is my servant. Okay. Without the permission of the girls, the Lord would take the sandalwood pulp and smear it on his own body, put the flower garlands on his neck, and snatch and eat all the offerings of sweetmeats, rice, and bananas. Well, I'll read the purport, Srila Prabhupada's purport. That's text 51. According to the system of worship, when something is offered to deities outside one's home, it is generally not cooked food, but raw rice, bananas, and sweetmeats. Out of his causeless mercy, the Lord would snatch the offerings from the girls and eat them, admonishing the girls not to worship the demigods, but to worship him. This worship of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Tisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yidgay Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Sumeda Saha. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32. Quote, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead who appears in this age of Kali with his associates as Panchatattva. The Lord himself and his associates, Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Prabhu, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, and Srivas Thakur. In this age, an intelligent person worships the Panchatattva by the method of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and, if possible, distributing prasad. So that's from the Bhagavatam. So, there's so much elaborate ways and processes for deity worship. And for Gaura Nitai, for worshiping Lord Chaitanya, Gaura Nitai, the main way to serve and worship, chant Hare Krishna. Very simple, very, very simple. Our Krishna conscious, this is Prabhupada's purport. Our Krishna consciousness movement is introducing this bona fide method of worship in the Western world. Its members are going from village to village and town to town with deities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, teaching people how to worship the Lord by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, offering prasad and distributing it to people in general. Krode Kanya Ganakahe Shuna Ni Mani Grama Sambande How Tumi Amasabara Bai. All the girls became very angry at the Lord for this behavior. Dear Nimai, they told him, you are just like our brother in our village relationship. Therefore, it does not behoove you to act like this. Don't take our paraphernalia for worship of the demigods. Don't create a disturbance in this way. The Lord replied, my dear sisters, I give you the benediction that your husbands will be very handsome. They will be learned, clever, and young, and possess abundant wealth and rice. Not only that, but you will each have 7 sons who will all live long lives and be very intelligent. Hearing this benediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the girls were inwardly very happy, but externally, as it is natural for girls, they rebuked the Lord under the pretense of anger. When some of the girls fled, the Lord called them in anger and advised them as follows. If you are miserly and do not give me the offerings, every one of you will have an old husband with at least 4 co-wives. Hearing this supposed curse by Lord Chaitanya, the girls, considering that he might know something uncommon or be empowered by demigods, were afraid that his curse might be effective. The girls then brought the offerings before the Lord, who ate them all and blessed the girls to their satisfaction. When this cunning behavior of the Lord with the girls became known to the people in general, it did not create misunderstandings among them. Rather, they enjoyed happiness in these dealings. One day, a girl of the name Lakshmi, the daughter of Balabhacharya, came to the bank of the Ganges to take bath in the river and worship the demigods. Seeing Lakshmi Devi, the Lord became attached to her, and Lakshmi, upon seeing the Lord, felt great satisfaction within her mind. Their natural love for one another awakened, and although it was covered by childhood emotions, it became apparent that they were mutually attracted. They both enjoyed natural pleasure in seeing one another, and under the pretext of demigod worship, they manifested their feelings. The Lord told Lakshmi, just worship me, for I am the Supreme Lord. If you worship me, certainly you will get the benediction you desire. On hearing the order of the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lakshmi immediately worshipped him, offering sandalwood pulp and flowers for his body, garlanding him with malika flowers and offering prayers to the Lord. Being worshipped by Lakshmi, the Lord began to smile. He recited a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam and thus accepted the emotions he expressed. So now Lord Chaitanya is quoting a verse from Bhagavatam. My dear gopis, I accept your desire to have me as your husband and thus worship me. I wish your desire to be fulfilled because it deserves to be so. After thus expressing their feelings to one another, Lord Chaitanya and Lakshmi returned home. Who can understand the grave pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So this is Lakshmi Priya, and they became the wife of Lord Chaitanya. Seeing the naughty behavior of Lord Chaitanya, the neighboring people, out of love for him, lodged complaints with Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra. One day, Mother Sachi, wanting to rebuke her son, went to catch him, but he fled from the spot. Although he is the maintainer of the entire universe, once the Lord sat upon some rejected pots in the pit where the remnants of foodstuffs were thrown after they had been used for cooking. When Mother Sachi saw her boy sitting on the rejected pots, she protested, why have you touched these untouchable pots? You have now become impure. Go and take bath in the Ganges. Hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught his mother about absolute knowledge. Although amazed by this, his mother forced him to take bath. She was in awe with the philosophy, and you need to take a bath. Okay. Sometimes, taking her son with her, Mother Sachi would lie down on her bed, and she would see that denizens of the celestial world had come there, filling the entire house. Once Mother Sachi told the Lord, please go call your father. Receiving this order from his mother, the Lord went out to call him. When the child was going out, there was a tinkling of ankle bells from his lotus feet. Hearing this, his father and mother were struck with wonder. Jagannath Mishra said, "This is a very wonderful incident. Why is there a sound of ankle bells from the bare feet of my child?" Mother Sachi said, "I also saw another wonder. People were coming down from the celestial kingdom and crowding the entire courtyard. They made noisy sounds I could not understand. I guess they were offering prayers to someone." Jagannath Mishra replied, "Never mind what it is. There is no need to worry. Let there always be good fortune for Vishwambar. This is all I want." Vishwambar is another name for Lord Chaitanya. On another occasion, Jagannath Mishra, seeing the mischievous acts of his son, gave him lessons in morality after rebuking him greatly. On that very night, Jagannath Mishra dreamt that a Brahmin had come before him, speaking these words in great anger. "My dear Mishra, you do not know anything about your son. You think him your son, and therefore you rebuke and chastise him." Jagannath Mishra replied, "This boy may be a demigod, a mystic yogi, or a great saintly person. Doesn't matter what he is, for I think he is only my son. It is the duty of a father to educate his son in both religion and morality. If I do not give him this education, how will he know of it?" The Brahmin replied, "If your son is a transcendental mystic boy with self-effulgent perfect knowledge, what is the use of your education?" Jagannath Mishra replied, "Even if my son is not a common man but Narayan, still it is the duty of a father to instruct his son." In this way, Jagannath Mishra and the Brahmin discussed the principles of religion in the dream. Yet Jagannath Mishra was absorbed in unalloyed parental mellow and did not want to know anything else. Being very much pleased, the Brahmin left after talking with Jagannath Mishra, and when Jagannath Mishra awakened from his dream, he was very much astonished. He related the dream to his friends and relatives, and every one of them was very much astonished to hear of it. In this way, Gaura Hari, that's Lord Chaitanya, the golden avatar. In this way, Gaura Hari performed his childhood pastimes and day after day increased the pleasure of his parents. After some days, Jagannath Mishra inaugurated the primary education of his son by performing the Hatekadi ceremony. Within a very few days, the Lord learned all the letters and combinations of letters. This is a synopsis of the childhood pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, placed herewith in chronological order. Vrindavan Das Thakur has already elaborately explained these pastimes in his book Chaitanya Bhagavat. Adi-lila Adi-lila Sankshepe Suchakoila Punarukti Bhaye Vista Rirana Kahila. I have therefore made only a brief summary. Being afraid of repetition, I have not elaborated upon this subject matter. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padayare As Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-lila, 14th chapter, describing Lord Chaitanya's childhood pastimes. Hare Krishna.
Hare go.
Before we close, any comments? Anandini.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for reading and sharing. I have many things, but I will just share a few. I'm like so I don't know, I just think about it a lot that Lord Chaitanya is so attached to his mother. Attached?
Yes, he's attached to his mother. Yes, he is. He
And
allowed
he
his whole life to
followed.
be directed by his mother. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, like even after taking sannyas, he like followed the wish of his mother and stayed in Jagannath Puri and didn't go to Vrindavan. And it's so, I think it's so puzzling to my mind because like if I would see a grown-up man here so attached to his mother and like not, I would think, oh, this person needs therapy or something.
He needs therapy. He's too enmeshed. He needs to cultivate his autonomy. You need to grow up. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And with Lord Chaitanya, it just it it broadens my perspective, and I just find it really sweet. It touches my heart that
Yeah.
he's so
Mhm.
so loving and caring towards his mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, that's something that came to me as you were reading. And then someone, I don't know who asked the question about the Brahman, if it's the same as in Krishna Lila, or
Nitya
whether
Gopal, Nitya Gopal and Hari Gopal commented, yes.
Mhm. I was wondering about that. There's so many of Krishna's eternal associates also come in Chaitanya Lila.
Yes, yes.
And then it seems that many of them, because Prabhupada wrote, so he was, I don't know the words, but delivered from his material consciousness.
Yeah.
And it seems like that there are many, there's Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, and it seems like the first part of their life, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he would say that about
Yeah.
himself. He was so entangled in material consciousness. And then
Yeah.
they wake up to Krishna consciousness. And I'm just wondering about that. Like, are they really, like, truly entangled? Or they think they are? Or why would an eternal associate of Krishna want to make the experience of material misery? I know, I have many questions around that.
Yeah. Very, very wonderful questions. Yeah. Well, yeah. So we can see in this chapter Lord Chaitanya's affection for his mother, and the attachment. Yeah, Anandini's referencing, some of you maybe. So later, like at 24 years old, which is quite young to take sannyas, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas to spread the mission. But even after, like it's into all pastime, many pastimes, but then so, and sannyas basically means like, it's a complete commitment. Like, I am not this body. I'm not identifying with, I came from this village and these are my parents in this body. It's just like complete detachment. At the same time, and it's against the rules and regulations of sannyasa. And he was tricked by Vetacharya and Nityananda, and then they brought him back to where his mother was in Shantipur, and he allowed her to cook for him for 10 days, which you're not supposed to do as a sannyas. Like, let your mom cook for you, like that. You're supposed to try to scavenge for some berries in the forest or just whatever comes. And then his mother said, well, okay, I want you to base yourself here in Jagannath Puri, not in Vrindavan or not like that. So it's like, well, okay, mom, okay. And then he did his whole life in Jagannath Puri. So yeah. So Lord Chaitanya, in many ways, he was like super excessively strict, and in some ways he allowed the boundaries to be violated by, or at least crossed, because of love. Because the goal of all the regulations is that love, that true spiritual love. And then, my understanding, we see it. We see it just like, like Lord Chaitanya as a child is like this is Daniel saying, Krishna as a child. Sometimes they're just absorbed in being a child, or absorbed in being with flirting with the gopis, absorbed in playing with the Gauras, and then sometimes reveal their opulence. So similarly with the pure devotees, that we, it's not for me to say what's their consciousness when you say like Haridas Thakur, he's from a Muslim village, so we can just imagine what what his upbringing was and what the habits were, and Lord Chaitanya declared him the Namacharya, not Haridas Thakur. He's of all the chanters of the names of Krishna, Haridas Thakur. So it indicates a completely non-sectarian, universal theme of bhakti yoga. So Rupa Goswami and Sant Goswami, Bhaktivinoda, they were apparently bewildered, until they had a transformation. Just like Arjuna was apparently bewildered at a certain point in Bhagavad Gita. And yeah, so they're apparently bewildered. I think Arjuna is an example because he's playing a role. Now, in that role, how how much is he under yoga maya and really understanding that he's playing a role, or how like that's one sense that's not for me to guess, but they're like actors on a stage, and they're eternal associates, and they're playing a role, and they're so absorbed in the role that it's completely convincing. What's their consciousness in them playing the role? I don't have much realization.
Mm.
Thank you, Anandini.
Thank you.
Shri
I,
Chaitanya. Oh, yes, please.
I have one more thing that occurred to me, is that there's this theory that like romantic marriage is a new invention.
Yeah.
New, like it didn't used to be like that, and that's the cause of all the divorce. And I just got really clear it's not true. Like so Lord Chaitanya, he like he he did everything. He did all the naughty things. He learned. He traveled, and he also had romantic experiences, and married. He fell in love and married the woman he fell in love with.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So like it's not a recent invention. Of course, this is the pure form. Thanks for pointing that out. I see that as a salient principle. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna. Shri Gaura Purnima ki jai.